For centuries, the land we now call Germany was not one country. It was a patchwork of hundreds of kingdoms, duchies, principalities, and free cities. Each had its own ruler, its own army, and often its own interests. Though they spoke a common language, German, they were divided by religion, politics, and war. The dream of a united Germany was nothing more than that, a dream. But by the 19th century, that dream began to take shape. The people of these scattered states wanted unity. They wanted strength, and in time, they would find a man to lead them. Otto von Bismarck, born in 1815 in Schönhausen, a small town in Prussia, Bismarck was the son of a noble but modest family. From an early age, he was known for his sharp mind, his strong will, and his love for politics. Yet, no one could have guessed that this young Prussian would one day unite Germany under one flag. To understand Bismarck's rise, we must first understand Prussia, the strongest of all German states. Prussia was a military powerhouse, ruled by the House of Hohenzollern and led by King Wilhelm I. It had ambitions and it had enemies, especially Austria, the other great German-speaking empire that dominated Central Europe. At the time, Austria led the German Confederation, a loose association of 39 German states, created after the fall of Napoleon. But this confederation was weak, more a symbol than a government. Both Prussia and Austria wanted to lead the German world, and this rivalry would shape the future of Germany. In 1862, Otto von Bismarck was appointed Prime Minister of Prussia by King Wilhelm I. The king was frustrated. His parliament was refusing to approve military reforms. The army needed modernization, but the politicians argued endlessly, blocking progress. Bismarck's first speech as Prime Minister became legendary. He stood before the Prussian parliament and said, "The great questions of the day will not be decided by speeches and majority decisions. That was the great mistake of 1848 and 1849, but by iron and blood." Iron and blood. These words would define Bismarck's policy, realpolitik, politics based on power and practical interests, not on ideals or emotions. Bismarck believed that to unite Germany, Prussia needed to be strong. It needed to defeat its rivals and to lead, not to follow. But Bismarck was no mere warmonger. He was a master strategist, a political genius who knew how to use war and diplomacy together. His plan to unite Germany would unfold in 3 major wars. But first, he had to strengthen Prussia internally. Bismarck ignored the parliament's refusal and carried out military reforms anyway. He expanded the army, modernized weapons, and prepared Prussia for war. He also began working on foreign alliances, isolating Austria diplomatically and making sure that other European powers, like France and Russia, would not intervene when the time for conflict came. His first target was Denmark. In 1864, Denmark tried to annex the duchies of Schleswig and Holstein, German-speaking territories that had long been a source of conflict. Bismarck saw this as an opportunity. He formed an alliance with Austria. Yes, Austria, to confront Denmark. Together, Prussia and Austria went to war and easily defeated Denmark. But this alliance was only temporary. After the war, the question arose: who would control Schleswig and Holstein? Austria wanted a share. Bismarck wanted both duchies for Prussia. This disagreement set the stage for the next step: war with Austria itself. Yet Bismarck was careful. He made sure that France, Britain, and Russia would stay neutral. He even promised Italy the region of Venetia if they joined Prussia in a war against Austria. Everything was falling into place for Bismarck's next move: the Austro-Prussian War. By 1866, the tension between Prussia and Austria exploded. In a swift and decisive campaign known as the 7 Weeks' War, Prussia crushed Austria's forces. The victory was stunning. Prussia's modernized army, its railways, and its superior tactics proved far superior. Yet Bismarck did something surprising. He chose not to destroy Austria completely. He stopped the Prussian army short of capturing Vienna, Austria's capital. Why? Because Bismarck knew that one day he might need Austria as a friend. His goal was not revenge, it was unity. And to unite Germany, he needed to lead the German state, but without creating enemies that could threaten the future. The war's result was monumental. The German Confederation was dissolved. Austria was pushed out of German affairs, and Bismarck created the North German Confederation, a new union of northern German states under Prussian leadership. That war would be with France, but that is a story for another day. As Bismarck sat in his office in Berlin, he was already thinking ahead. He had used diplomacy, strategy, and war to reshape Germany. But the final act, the creation of the German Empire, was yet to come. In the next part of our story, we will see how Bismarck provoked a war with France, and how, out of the flames of that war, Germany was finally born as one nation, under one flag, with one voice. The year is 1866. Prussia has defeated Austria. The German Confederation is gone, and in its place stands the North German Confederation, led by Otto von Bismarck and the Prussian king, Wilhelm I. But Germany is still divided. The southern German states, Bavaria, Württemberg, Baden, and Hesse-Darmstadt, remain outside this new union. They are independent and wary of Prussia's growing power. If Bismarck wanted to complete his mission, if he wanted one Germany, he had to find a way to bring these southern states into the fold. And Bismarck, the master of realpolitik, knew that nothing unites people like a common enemy. That enemy would be France. At this time, France was ruled by Emperor Napoleon III, the nephew of the famous Napoleon Bonaparte. France was watching Prussia's rise with growing concern. A strong, united Germany would threaten France's power in Europe. Bismarck knew this. He also knew that a war with France would ignite German nationalism and rally the southern states to Prussia's side. But how to provoke such a war without looking like the aggressor? Here begins one of Bismarck's most brilliant and dangerous moves, the Ems Dispatch. The Ems Dispatch, the spark. The story begins with the vacant throne of Spain. After a revolution, Spain was looking for a new king, and they offered the crown to Prince Leopold of Hohenzollern, a relative of the Prussian king. France was furious. If a Prussian prince became king of Spain, France would be surrounded by Hohenzollern rulers in both Prussia and Spain. Napoleon III demanded that the offer be withdrawn, and under pressure, Prince Leopold declined the Spanish throne. But Napoleon III wanted more. He wanted King Wilhelm I of Prussia to promise that no Hohenzollern would ever accept the Spanish crown in the future. The two monarchs met in the town of Ems, and King Wilhelm politely refused to make such a promise. After their meeting, Wilhelm sent a telegraph to Bismarck, summarizing what happened. Now, this is where Bismarck's genius and ruthlessness came into play. Bismarck took Wilhelm's polite and neutral message and edited it carefully, without changing the facts, but making it sound harsh, abrupt, and insulting to the French. This edited version is what we now call the Ems Dispatch. When this message was released to the public, it looked as though the Prussian king had humiliated the French ambassador. The French public was outraged. Napoleon III, under pressure to defend his nation's honor, declared war on Prussia on July 19, 1870, just as Bismarck had planned. The Franco-Prussian War, the final battle for German unity. Once France declared war, all of Germany rallied to Prussia's side, including the southern German states. What years of diplomacy could not achieve, war accomplished in days. A united German front against a common enemy. The war itself was swift and brutal. Prussia had modern weapons, a well-organized railway system, and a professional army trained for rapid mobilization. The German states fought as one, and their armies quickly crossed into France. The key battle came at Sedan on September 1st, 1870. In a crushing defeat, the French army was surrounded, and Napoleon III himself was captured. It was a shocking blow to French pride. The Second French Empire collapsed, and the French people declared a republic. But Bismarck was not done. Even as the French people continued to resist, Bismarck pushed forward with his true goal, the proclamation of the German Empire, the birth of the German Empire. As German armies laid siege to Paris, German leaders gathered in the Grand Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, the symbol of French royal power. There, on January 18th, 1871, King Wilhelm I of Prussia was crowned Emperor, Kaiser of the new German Empire. The dream of German unification had finally come true. From the Rhine to the Vistula, from Bavaria to Prussia, the German states were now one nation, a powerful, industrial, and military force in the heart of Europe. Bismarck stood proudly beside Wilhelm, his life's work accomplished, but he also knew that this new Germany, born in war, would forever be shaped by its military roots. The Treaty of Frankfurt, the price of victory. The war officially ended with the Treaty of Frankfurt in May 1871. The terms were harsh on France. Germany took the rich provinces of Alsace and Lorraine, territories that would remain a source of hatred and conflict between France and Germany for generations. France also had to pay a huge sum in reparations and endure German occupation in part of its land until the payments were made. Germany was now united, but Europe was changed forever. A new power had risen, and it would dominate the continent for decades to come. Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor, Chancellor. After unification, Bismarck became the first Chancellor of the German Empire. He had achieved what no one before him could, a united Germany under Prussian leadership. But Bismarck was not only a man of war. Now that Germany was united, his focus shifted to preserving peace in Europe, to protect his new empire. Through careful diplomacy, he would try to keep Germany strong and prevent another great war. Yet, though Germany was united, it was also divided. Catholics and Protestants, liberals and conservatives, industrialists and peasants, all were now part of one nation, but not yet one people. And as Bismarck would soon learn, keeping Germany together would be as hard as uniting it in the first place. Conclusion: a new chapter begins. Thus ended the second great act of Bismarck's life, the unification of Germany. But his story was not over. Now, as Chancellor, he would face new challenges, from political rivalries to the struggle between church and state, and the growing demands of the working class. In part 3 of our series, we will explore Bismarck's Germany, how he ruled, how he balanced power, and how the empire he built would shape the 20th century, for better or worse. This is the story of Otto von Bismarck, the man who forged a nation with iron and blood. When Otto von Bismarck stood in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles in January 1871, watching King Wilhelm I crowned as Kaiser of Germany, his dream had come true. A united Germany, strong and proud, stood at the center of Europe. But as Bismarck knew well, creating an empire was only half the battle. Ruling it would be even harder. The Iron Chancellor Bismarck, now Chancellor of the German Empire, had immense power, but he also had immense challenges. Germany was not a simple country. It was a patchwork of different kingdoms and duchies: Bavaria, Saxony, Württemberg, Baden, each with its own traditions. And even though Prussia was now the dominant force, many Germans did not see themselves as one people yet. There were deep divisions: Protestants in the north, Catholics in the south, industrial workers in cities, peasants in the countryside, liberals who wanted a parliament to rule, and conservatives loyal to the Kaiser. Bismarck had to hold all these forces together to protect the new empire from tearing itself apart. The Kulturkampf, war on the Catholic Church. One of Bismarck's first and most famous battles was against the Catholic Church, known as the Kulturkampf, or culture struggle. Why? Because Bismarck feared the Catholics, who made up a third of Germany's population, might be more loyal to the Pope in Rome than to the German Kaiser. The Catholic Church was powerful, and Bismarck wanted to make sure the state, not the church, had the final say in German affairs. He passed laws that took control of Catholic schools, made it harder for priests to preach without government approval, expelled Jesuits, a powerful Catholic order, from Germany. But this backfired. Catholics organized, protested, and formed their own political party, the Centre Party, which grew stronger in Parliament. In time, even Bismarck realized he could not crush the church. By the late 1870s, he quietly ended the Kulturkampf, reaching a compromise with the Vatican. This was a lesson for Bismarck. Not every battle could be won by force. Sometimes politics required negotiation. The rise of socialism and Bismarck's social reforms. But Bismarck's biggest domestic challenge came from a new and growing force: socialism. As Germany rapidly industrialized, millions of workers crowded into cities, working long hours in dangerous factories for low wages. Many began to support socialist ideas, calling for better conditions, higher pay, and workers' rights. The Social Democratic Party, SPD, grew fast, and Bismarck saw socialism as a threat to the empire, a revolution waiting to happen. In response, he did two things. 1. Repression. Bismarck passed harsh anti-socialist laws, banning socialist meetings, newspapers, and organizations. 2nd, reform. But he also surprised everyone. To take away the socialists' appeal, Bismarck became the father of the modern welfare state. He introduced groundbreaking social reforms, including health insurance for workers, accident insurance to protect them if injured on the job, old age pensions, the first in the world, giving workers income when they were too old to work. Bismarck didn't do this out of kindness. He did it to protect the empire from revolution, but in doing so, he laid the foundation for the social safety nets we see in many countries today. Foreign policy, keeping the peace of Europe. While Bismarck managed Germany's internal struggles, he also worked to keep peace in Europe. After uniting Germany through war, Bismarck now wanted no more wars. He knew that France would never forget the loss of Alsace and Lorraine, and might seek revenge. So Bismarck's goal was to keep France isolated without allies. To do this, he built a complex web of alliances: the Three Emperors League, an alliance between Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Russia; the Dual Alliance with Austria-Hungary, promising to support each other if attacked by Russia; later, the Triple Alliance with Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Germany. Bismarck carefully balanced these powers to prevent any single alliance from becoming too strong, and to make sure France had no friends. His foreign policy was like a giant chess game, and for as long as Bismarck was in charge, Europe remained at peace. The fall of Bismarck, a new emperor, a new era, but all things come to an end. In 1880, 1888, Kaiser Wilhelm I died. His son, Friedrich III, became emperor, but he was sick and died after just 99 days. The throne then passed to Wilhelm II, a young and ambitious ruler who wanted to govern in his own way. Wilhelm II did not like Bismarck's careful, controlling style. He wanted Germany to take a bigger role in world affairs, to build a massive navy and colonies, and to challenge Britain's power. Bismarck tried to guide the young emperor, but Wilhelm II pushed back. Finally, in 1890, after nearly 30 years of ruling Germany, Bismarck was forced to resign. As he left the palace for the last time, Bismarck is said to have remarked, "The old tune is finished, the new one begins. Legacy, the world Bismarck left behind." Bismarck retired to his estate, writing his memoirs and watching from a distance as Germany changed. He had united Germany, created Europe's strongest empire, and kept peace through careful diplomacy. But without Bismarck's steady hand, the alliances he built would fall apart. Germany would begin to challenge Britain and Russia, leading to the dangerous rivalries that exploded into World War I in 1914, just 24 years after Bismarck's fall. Some historians say Germany without Bismarck was like a ship without a captain, powerful but directionless.